Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. If you are watching this video, hopefully you are interested in learning how to play Nemo's War 2nd Edition. If not, then you have clicked on the wrong video on YouTube, but you are welcome to stay just the same. I am not going to cover setup in this video. There are lots of good videos already out there that discuss setup, like the One Stop Co-op Shop, and the instruction manual also does an excellent job of going over setup. So I'm basically just going to go through a couple turns here and talk everyone through what exactly needs to happen, because the rulebook is kind of meaty and it's got a lot of text. I had to read through it several times and then play. Really is the best way to do it, and then have the rulebook on hand. So actually, for those of you who are familiar with the game and the setup, you have to pre-create an adventure deck, which I have done here, and placed it off to the side. And I went ahead and did the Act 1 card, which essentially just tells me start with 2 dice, 2 white dice, roll 1, and my Nautilus token here is in the Indian Ocean, and that's where we're going to start. So every round has 3 phases. The event phase, where we're going to draw an adventure card. The placement phase, where we're actually going to place more either ship tokens or these unidentified ship tokens out. And then we get our turn. I have set this game up on easy for now, so I get to actually start with 2 actions. Standard would be 1. If you're playing on difficult, you'd start at 0, but I get 2 actions for free right off the bat, and we'll explain actions here in just a minute. But let's go ahead and get started here. So again, these are completely random. You can see the stack I have over here, and then I have a whole another stack over here that establish the side adventure deck. But let's see if we can get that to focus. There we go. So this reads, Captain Nemo's thunderbolt. When the first islander laid hands on the companionway railing, he was flung backward by some invisible power. Lord knows what. He ran off howling in terror and wildly prancing around. So at this point, I need to test 8. I don't have a choice. So I'm testing 8, and I can kind of bet my Nemo and my hull resource here in order to get to 8. And if I pass, I'm going to have to gain 1 notoriety, but I'm also going to gain a treasure. If I fail, I gain 2 notoriety and lose 1 hull. So we're definitely attempting to pass. So I'm just going to set this right here for now. Now, the 8 is going to be the result of 2 dice roll. So that could be, that's pretty obtainable, but that's, like a 75% chance of, or it's in like the upper 75th of the dice roll. So I am going to go ahead and for now risk both my Nemo and my hull. During these tests, you can risk whatever symbol is here. So the N is for Nemo, the H is for hull. And you can see I have risked them by pushing these 2 things over between, I don't know what you want to call it, the 2 levels. So I'm going to get +2 on my dice and another +2. So I'm already at 4. So I only need to now roll a 4 right here. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and roll them here. For example, all right, so I got a 10. I easily passed. Way more than 8. Since I bet these, I actually get them back. But if I had lost, I would have actually lost them, and they would have gone over here. And as you can see, the further down you get, the less powerful these get, except for Nemo. Actually, as he gets towards the end here, he gets a little crazy. But since I passed, I get them all back. So they all go back to full strength. I am going to have to push my notoriety up by 1. So this goes up here. And I'm going to get to collect 1 treasure. So I have just in a cup off to the side all these tokens, and I have it way up here. So when I reach into it, I mix it up a little bit. Can't really see what I'm pulling. and I have pulled the City of Combat. You can see this is just a small little token. Maybe not. There we go. So this is gaining me 1, and that's the wonder symbol that was on there. So I'm just going to put this here in front of me, and we can see that my wonders seen, which is this symbol right here, is getting me ×3. So those are actually going to be pretty good. I'm playing the anti-imperialism card, and you can see that it's giving me some positive and some negatives, even some multipliers for the different points. So when this sits on the board, it actually lines up with that 0.6 is right here with the liberation symbol, and I get points for this for inciting rebellion. So we're going to cover all that in a second, but just understand that my goal in the game is dependent on what this card is right here, and you can see that there is a different side, explore, and then there's 2 other sides, war and science, and then there's a small expansion pack. It's like a pack of baseball cards size expansion that you can get that has 2 more motives, they're called. So for now we have passed our test, so we're also going to, since we passed, I'm going to put this in a pass pile for counting up victory points later. If I fail, I put it in a fail pile, and I don't get to count those points later. So that was the event phase. All of those cards pull a lot from the literature, and so they are very thematic to go through, but you always start your round with doing an event. Sometimes there are cards you can keep, sometimes there are tests you have to do, sometimes there's just really crappy things that happen to you. But anyways, so since we are in the Act 1, I've been told to only roll 2 white dice, so I'm going to go ahead and roll those now. And you can see my results here are a 6 and a 4. At this point, you will take the difference between the 2 dice, which is 2, and you get 2 more actions. So I started with 2 free ones, so now I have 4. This also shows you that you need to add a ship token to Ocean 6 and Ocean 4. We can see I'm currently in Ocean 6 based on this little symbol right here, and then Ocean 4 is right here next to me. These smaller oceans, connecting oceans, do not have a die symbol on them. They begin to be populated as these larger oceans fill up. Then the ships spill over into here, and then as these ship tokens all fill up the board, then we start actually replacing them with actual ship tokens. So I am going to place one here on 6 and one on 4. So that's the placement phase. So we did the event phase, we did the placement phase. Now it's essentially my turn, and I have 4 actions I can take. What my possibilities are is I could attack these ships. I would just pick one at that point. I would draw from this cup, which you can see is filled with a whole bunch of ship tokens. So I just blindly draw one out and put it down. Or I can search. This little gem here means that there is an opportunity for treasure. So I would do a search test. I can incite a rebellion, which is my route to victory right now. My motives are highly dependent on liberation. So inciting rebellions is just another test that you would do. And then so passing, you take these little cubes and you start filling up these little areas here. But the more revealed ships you have in an area, the more rebellions you've already started in an area, makes that more difficult. The more ships you have in an area that are revealed make it more difficult to hunt down the other ships. So inevitably, you always are wanting to keep this map kind of clean, but that can be difficult because every time you attack a ship, you are gaining notoriety up on this track. And you can see as the marker here makes it all the way up here to 14, and we're already at 1 now. I have to take all of these ship tokens and put them in the pile. And same here for 26. And then these get added in during the different acts. These are event specific. So the more notoriety you accumulate, the more difficult the ships are going to be that come out to defeat. And you also can't just swim your Nautilus around and ignore all this, because if all of this fills up with revealed ship tokens, you're going to lose again. So lots of things to consider in this game, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why it's a solo game, because you really got to think through everything here. One other thing to point out is these Nautilus upgrades. You can see that as starting on easy, I got to go ahead and start with one upgrade for free, the anti-imperialism one, which is up here. And it allows me to gain +1 DRM. That's a dice roll modifier. That's what that stands for. When exerting your hull resource. Also ignore all 6 results when rolling to apply damage to the Nautilus. So essentially that means I want to risk my hull whenever possible. And if I do that, this +2 becomes a +3. This +1 would become a +2. So what I think we are going to do right off the bat here is going to go ahead and we're going to attempt to incite a rebellion. Now, inciting a rebellion, I am allowed to exert one ship resource of my choice. The event card over here had the resources listed, and so I could use both of those if I wanted to. Most other tests, you get to choose one resource. So I, of course, am going to choose the hull because of my Nautilus upgrade here. So this +2 is actually a +3. And over here off to the side, it's hard to see, but it is nicely placed here because this kind of information is in the rule book. It's nice that it's just printed on the board, so you don't always have to keep the rule book out. But what it's telling me essentially is that if I roll a 7 to or a 6 or lower, I have failed and I have to take some consequences. If I roll a 7 or an 8, nothing happens. It's kind of a moot point. If I roll a 9 through 11, I get to place my cube, but I also have to, and then I get to remove 1 notoriety. And if I get a 12 or higher, I actually would get to move this back 2. So I really am only looking for at least a 9, and I've already got a 3. So I'm looking for 6 between 2 dice. Again, almost all your tests are just rolling 2 dice, 2 white dice, standard D6s. All right, and here is an excellent example of a fail. So at this point, based on my dice roll modifier and my current roll, I have a 6, which would mean no effect, and I'd have to gain a notoriety. I could probably live with that. I'd also lose a hull resource because I bet on my hull resource. Or I can use one of my my shipmates here, and I'm just going to try and push these guys just up into sight just briefly. These guys kind of are sitting off camera right now, but it's hard to see, but they have various actions like a reroll action or a +3 dice roll modifier after roll or +1 after roll, so they can kind of save you in a pinch when you fail. If you have not used them up throughout the game, at the end of the game they're worth points, but a lot of times you're gonna need them. So for example, Council here, who is Professor Aronnax's lackey or whatever you want to call him, he is going to get me 1 reroll, and so essentially I'm going to exhaust him. I'm going to use him up. I won't have him for the rest of the game. He just kind of goes to a blank side over here. but it's going to allow me to re-roll my dice. And there is our 6. So that's exactly what we needed. We wanted at least a 9. We have 6 plus 3 is 9, so we passed. I'm going to get to move my hull back over. I'm going to get to place 1 token here, and I could either start the Byzania at war, or the Selangor Civil War. I don't know either one of those historically. So we'll just put it there. It really doesn't matter what I filled it up, as long as it's one of these connecting to my current ocean. And that was 1 action. So I'm going to move this down here from 3 to 4. And also as a bonus for inciting, get to move that back to 0. Now at this point, I want to go ahead and use up 2 more actions. I can save 1 action between rounds to use for later, but I cannot save more than 1. So it would be a waste not to use at least 2 more actions. So at this point, I'm going to search. And a search is another, just a simple test that you can exert 1 ship resource. Any ship tokens, revealed ship tokens in the area would be negative modifiers, but we don't have that. So again, I am going to exert my hull. This is becoming a +3 modifier, and I am looking for at least a 7. So only a 4 on these 2. That's a little bit better. Preferably a 9 or even 9 or higher, or a 12 or higher. So let's see what we get here. And we've got a 7 from my dice. +3 is a 10. So if I look over here at the table, it just says collect 1 treasure. If I had gotten a 7 or an 8, I would have collected a treasure, but had to move this up 1. So again, we're just going to go up here to our little bucket, and you can see that this one is just a straight victory point. Nothing fancy about that, but I can actually use these, the one with the gem symbol on it, to risk during later tests, and to beef up my dice roll modifier. So I could actually say, okay, this is a 3. I really want to make sure I pass. So that's a 4 because that's worth 1 point. If it was worth like 3, I'd be at a 6 already. But essentially, what I have done is I have searched and used up this little token here. So that goes away, and until this gets repopulated with another gem, I cannot search in this area. And that was an action there. And last but not least, we are going to go ahead and we are going to attack. Now, there are 2 ways to attack, and you have this little ring at your disposal at all times. You can see one side says a bold attack, and this side says a stalk attack. But if I do a stalk attack, I get a +1 dice roll modifier. So the difference between the 2 of them, other than a stalk attack giving you a bonus of +1 to your dice roll, is that a bold attack, I can continue to attack a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, as long as I want to. I can continue to attack and still just use up 1 action. So I think that's what I'm going to want to do. I'm going to try and get rid of these 2 ship tokens here. So I'm going to use a bold attack. If I were to use a stalk attack, it means I'm being sneaky, which is why I get the +1. But after I'm sneaky, whether I win or lose against the ship, I've kind of given myself up and I can't be sneaky anymore. So I'm just going to be bold. I'm going to surface. I'm going to let them all see me, strike fear into them. So you have to announce before you draw your ship token which one you want to do. So I'm going to do a bold attack. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to draw one of my ship tokens here. And you can see I've drawn the Royal Adelaide. Maybe. Well, there we go. So you essentially just put this back in its place. you can see that I have to get 10 or better on my test to defeat it. It's going to get me 3 victory points. I'm also going to have to take 2 notoriety by defeating it. But since it's a white, it doesn't have any chance to attack me back. It's not a warship. You can see, for example, on this one here, the warships all have a red number in the upper left corner. This, they're actually going to attack you first, and you have to defend or roll higher than this number to defend against their attack. And then, no matter what happens, whether you take damage or not, you then have to roll to see if you can defeat them. So we are looking for a 10 or more on this guy. And again, I'm going to risk my hull. So I'm at a 3, so I'm needing a 7. And I really want to make sure I can get another one here. So I am actually going to risk my treasure. So I'm at a 4, so I need a 6 out of my 2 dice. And I got it easily. So I am at 11. Easily defeats the Royal Adelaide. Now, at this point, I have 2 options of what I want to do with this ship token. I can either let it sink to the bottom of the ocean, and I would put it down here in the Indian Ocean track. And you can see that if I fill up these columns, for each column that I've filled up, I get a certain amount of points at end game scoring. And sinking it just means it's like putting your little hash mark on the side of your hull or something like that. Now I could also take this ship and I could put it way over here. Can you guys see that? And I would add them to this track, and this means I have actually gone down after it after it's sunk, and I have salvaged it for parts. And I use these parts essentially to purchase additional upgrades to the Nautilus. And you can see here that this is one in particular that I definitely want to get. The Arcane Library is going to give me a +1 dice roll modifier on all search and incite actions, and it only costs me 2. 2 meaning that I need 2 ships here to be able to even purchase this when I do a refit action. But since I did a bold action and I want to be able to go again, I'm going to put this here, because if you dive down after a ship to salvage it, you end your attack. You're no longer attacking. You're going down to the bottom of the ocean. So if you just want to let it sink for tonnage, then you can continue to attack with the bold attack, which is what we're going to do. So we take this off. There we go in here. Hopefully an easy one. Aha! And so you can see we got ourselves a warship. So this one's actually going to attack us first. So what we need to do is roll I need to take this off. That needs to be put away. I need to roll a 7. Now again, when you're defending, you can still commit resources. So I'm going to commit my hull, which is a +3. So I just need a 4 or better on my 2 dice to evade their attack. Whew, just barely got it. So I got a 5. So he does not hit me for any damage. I completely missed that. No matter what would have happened there, I still get to attack him back. Now, I really don't have much else other than, this would go back for being successful, but then I'm just going to risk it again. I have got my shipmates here if I run into trouble, but I'm just going to go for it. So I'm looking for a 7 or higher on my 2 dice here. And I got it. Just barely. I swear. My dice rolling in this game is just atrocious. So what I have done now is I have sunk this one as well. Now I could take it and I could put it right here. And if I was going for 40 points, I would probably want to just keep sinking it for tonnage. But I am wanting to get the Arcane Library. So I'm going to put it over here, which means I went down after it and salvaged it. My attacking turn now has to finish. So that was all one action. And I'm going to stop here, meaning I'm going to save one action for the next round. My Nautilus stays put. I did not move. And that's the end of this round. So I'm going to go through one more round a little bit more quickly, just to hopefully cover everything. But that essentially is how you play Nemo's War 2nd Edition. Your other actions that you have available to you, you can repair your hull. You can, so if this starts to drop, you can actually gain hull points back. You can rest your crew, so your crew can come back. You can refit, which is testing to see if you are able to add the upgrade. And you can also adventure, which means you would go up here and you would pull an event card, but it's not from your main storyline from this game. And adventuring just is almost exactly the same as the event phase. You never know what you're going to get out of it. It could be positive or negative. This one little blue token here means that I would get 1 treasure for taking on this adventure, and more will get added here if I don't, if certain events happen. Gems could get added here, but as soon as you do an adventure, you take them all away and pull the tokens, and then you start refilling it. So moving on to round 2, we're going to go into the event phase here, and you can see this card here is a keep card, and it says when the Nautilus is in the North or South Atlantic, you may fail and gain 2 hull, or a game ends pass if unused. So this essentially means that if I am in need of 2 hull, say this is coming down here and I don't want to have to do a whole repair action, I can actually put this in my fail pile if I am in the right ocean and gain 2 hull back. But if I don't need this at the end of the game, it's going to go in my pass pile, and I will actually get these victory point modifiers, which, based upon anti-imperialism, I'm getting ×2 for the lightning bolt, and just a regular for this card symbol, adventure card symbol here. So, kind of a good boon. But if I was doing the science motive, this would probably be worth a lot of points. So I would definitely try and hold on to this and not use it. But either way, I'm going to take this card and just kind of put it in front of me in what they call your tableau. That's what the instruction manual uses. But essentially, just keep it in front of you. Remember, it's there to use. And if you are in the North or South Atlantic, then you have the opportunity to use it as a free action. So that was an easy event. I didn't need to test anything. There was no risk involved, so we're going to move right on to the placement phase. All right. So again, the difference here is 2, so I get 2 more actions, and I have to put a token in the 4 and the 2. 4 and 2. Now, just 2 things real quick before we move on. If, for example, I had rolled 2 4s, this would be what is called a lull turn. Essentially, I'm not getting any actions because there is no difference between the 2. So at that point, if I had saved my 1, I could have used my 1 action I saved. So that's the benefit to always saving 1, but you're not required to save 1 action. The lull turn is also when more gems get put up here. You refill the gems where you're going to be placing ships. So if this was missing, you would put a gem back here. And what else happens on a lull turn? You also have to check for certain uprisings against certain uprisings. And I'm not going to go into detail into that, but essentially I would have to, if I had rolled a lull turn, I'd have to roll against this cube right here. It would be pretty easy because there is nothing else in the ocean. Essentially, you're adding up all the other modifiers, negative modifiers in the ocean, like warships and regular ships, and just trying to roll again higher than that number. So this one would be pretty easy. Since I had cleared out this ocean, I'd almost certainly pass. The other thing I want to just point out that is when your oceans start to fill up, say for example, I on the next turn roll a 4 and a 5 here. This ocean is now full. I cannot accept any more tokens because the 3 slots are full. So I have the option to follow these little blue lines here. I can also follow dotted lines, and I could put one here. Say it happens again. I could put one here. Say further on down the road, I have completely ignored this South Atlantic Ocean here, and I roll a 4 again. There is no place, actually, sorry, there's a connecting line here, so just for thematic reasons, there's no place for me to put fill up an empty space that's connected to the 4 ocean. This is when I then need to reach into my ship token here and pull out a ship, and I am replacing now the ship, revealed ship, with a ship token. And that may be a warship, it may be just a regular merchant vessel, but either way, now there is all of a sudden revealed ships in the area. I'm not revealing them when I'm attacking them, they're already have made themselves known. So this would make incite actions harder, search actions harder. So you can see that I can't just float around on my Nautilus and ignore sinking or getting rid of ships. Because if all of these become revealed ships, the whole map, we lose. And you're looking at placing 2 ship tokens every round. Once we pass into Act 2, it's 3. And then Act 3, you're actually rolling 4 dice, placing 4 ship tokens every round. This map fills up very fast. And the only way to win is to A, score enough points, hopefully taking your motives into mind, but also getting to the finale card, which we know is buried deep in the adventure deck, because that's the way the instruction manual told us to set up the deck. We know it's in one of the last 5 cards. We deliberately put it there. We're never going to find it in the first 3. It's always going to be in the last 5. And that's essentially how you win. You continue to go around. You keep passing events. You keep filling up your tonnage track. You keep upgrading your Nautilus. You basically do stuff that is best for your motive, and you keep yourself out of trouble. So you keep yourself down on notoriety as much as possible. But it's an excellent game. It's an excellent solo game because there is so many choices involved. It's a role-thinking game, and it's very thematic. For anybody that's read the novel by Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, all of the events are pulled straight from the novel, so it really sucks you right in and makes you want to go read the book again. So I highly recommend this game. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I will do my best to answer them. I do not consider myself an expert on this game at all, but I hope that this little brief playthrough will help just answer some questions of people who may be struggling with the rulebook or may not want to read the rulebook at all. I recommend reading the rulebook at least once, or breezing through it, but sometimes these videos can help. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. Have a great night.